You're listening to Life Repurposed with Michelle Rayburn, where you'll find uplifting and practical advice for everyday living, creative inspiration for do-it-yourself projects, and recommendations for books and resources that will encourage you to embrace your life repurposed. I'm your host, Michelle Rayburn. Hey friends, thanks for joining me for episode 55 of Life Repurposed. Today I'm talking about coping with overwhelm to restore sanity. It's too much. I've thought this often in the past couple of weeks, months, year. May I just do a short rant here? If I see another meme about if 2020 were a song, or if 2020 were a menu item, or if it were any other train wreck, or if one more person asks if we can press the reset button on 2020, did anyone have 2020 vision about this when they made that their New Year's slogan? Okay, rant done. Now, let's talk about what the last week or two has brought into my brain that I'm processing, and I have a feeling yours is somewhat similar. There are fires in California, and I have loved ones there. COVID-19 broke more records for positive numbers, and that's a negative thing. There's been another shooting of a black unarmed man in my own home state. There are 2 hurricanes hitting the southern coast at the same time. There's bickering on social media, and someone's comments cut to the core of my identity, threatening my sense of belonging in the fellowship of Christians. Several friends are either sick with COVID or have lost loved ones to it this week. Politics. Need I say more? A Christian leader has been forced to resign because of misconduct. One of my own family members had a serious accident. And pumpkin pie spice coffee is back at Starbucks. Ew. Okay, I had to just do it on that last one. But seriously, that's a normal week lately. It's just plain overwhelming, and I'm starting to feel out of my mind. Maybe you felt it too. I'm finding myself feeling kind of numb sometimes, like I don't know how to have appropriate emotions anymore. And sometimes I wonder what's happening because I don't feel like myself. So I'm in a conversation with somebody and I sort of check out and I just feel like I'm not having the typical free flow of conversation that I would normally have, and I have to really work at it. And my brain is just stressed out. I think it's overwhelm. I'm at the top edge of full when it comes to bad news. I don't want any more of it. Not even the tiniest little bit. Not the littlest bit of stress. Not any pressure, but it just keeps coming. So the waves have come in my metaphorical boat to the top rim. And now the littlest stress makes me act like I would if the ship were going down, except it isn't. So let's talk about that. Are you like me and have had the fight or flight feelings come way too easily lately? I hear you. Let's talk about what needs to happen in order to restore some sanity, because maybe you have felt that, like it feels like the ship's going down and it isn't, and I need to figure out how to cope with those emotions because the least little splash of water makes me freak out. Okay, it's all metaphorical, but I want you to see it like that. Like this picture of like, if I'm in a boat, it isn't in calm waters, but the boat's okay, and yet every splash of water makes me freak out. Okay, that's where I would describe how life feels right now. So what I want to do is talk about some steps that I think would help us to restore sanity, and it's what I'm processing through in my own life too. So number 1, acknowledge it. If I'm not aware that my boat feels at risk, then it's going to blindside me when a tiny wave hits. I have to be aware that my emotions are high. I have to know that I'm on that verge of meltdown because I have to know how to plan for coping with it, or it's just not going to be pretty. So acknowledge it. Then what? Number 2, release it. Now there's different ways of releasing it. I know I'm going to overreact when life feels that way. I don't want to, but I just do. It's not healthy. It's not helpful. I get it. I did it just today and reacted inappropriately to a stressor with my husband. We will each need to know what helps us to de-escalate when we feel that way, because it feels like there's a pressure release valve and it just goes off on the wrong people. And so releasing it might mean that we have to find a healthier way to release it instead of yelling at somebody or overreacting on social media or whatever happens, whether it's in person or on social media, it's going to release. So we need to find some other way. So maybe a walk. It's like maybe some of you live in an area where you can go for a nice walk because you have beautiful weather yet in the summer. A deep breath. Maybe canceling some commitments. Maybe I don't need to have so much stuff in my boat, kind of like the old, isn't it called jettisoning or something like that, where they throw the cargo, jettison the cargo, throw it overboard and get rid of the excess. Maybe I need more time alone or more time with friends, depending on personality. Permission to make mistakes. Permission to not be okay. Phone a friend. Ice cream? Anger management? I don't know what you need, but you know what's the best release for you. So we need to have a plan for how to release it. And then the last thing is cleanup. After we blow, there will be some cleanup. When a kid barfs in the car, there's cleanup. When I verbally vomit on somebody because their stressor is the wave that tipped my boat or threatened to tip my boat, I'll have to clean up with some apologies. And I hope they have some extra grace lying around because they're going to need it. There's always cleanup after a mess. And so maybe we don't handle it the right way. Maybe we didn't release it the right way. And so we have to be prepared to figure out how are we going to clean it up? How are we going to restore the relationships? How are we going to still cope and function as people who love one another with friends and family? In her book, Brilliance, author Jane Rubietta calls it serious seasickness on board the boat we call life when she refers to this type of thing. And I'll be interviewing Jane on next week's show, so you want to make sure you tune in for the next episode. I feel like lately I need an extra dose of grace. I know my friends all have their own top 10 list of things that blew up this week, and we all need the grace to get our sanity back in the overwhelm. The important thing, though, to know is the ship is not going down. There is hope yet. It's getting tossed around, but we're still okay. And so I think that's important for me to tell myself over and over. It's still okay. God is still in control. It's still okay, even though it feels as if it's all about to capsize. So it's going to be a short episode. What I want to do is talk about a resource for you. This week, I want to share the book Overwhelmed, How to Quiet the Chaos and Restore Your Sanity by Kathy Lipp and Sherry Gregory. I'll put a link in the show notes at michellerayburn.com/55 for the book, so you can grab that there, and also some other things that go along with it. So let me just tell you a little bit from the back cover of the book. It says, feeling overwhelmed? Wondering if it's possible to move from out of my mind to in control when you've got too many projects on your plate and too much mess in your relationships? Kathy and Sherry want to show you 5 surprising reasons why you become stressed, why social media solutions don't often work, and how you can finally create a plan that works for you. As you identify your underlying hurts, uncover hope, and embrace practical healing, you'll become equipped to trade the to-do list that controls you for a calendar that allows space in your life. Decide whose feedback to forget and whose input to invite. Replace the fear of the future with peace in the present. You can simplify and savor your life guilt-free. Clutter, tasks, and relationships may overwhelm you now, but God can help you overcome with grace. Now, that book was written before things kind of went crazy. It was written before 2020. But there are many practical tips in the book that I found applicable because overwhelm is not a new thing. It's just we seem to have a little more overwhelm, if that's even a possible thing. There is also on the website that Kathy and Sherry have put together a personality test where you can look and see your overwhelmed personality and find out more about what it is that tips you over the edge. So I will also link to that personality test, and that will be in the show notes at michellerayburn.com/55. So I just wanted to pop on today with a really short word of encouragement because things are overwhelming this week as I'm recording this, and I'm not going to take a lot of time for a long episode, but I wanted you to know that I'm here with you and that I'm experiencing some of the same things you are, and that together I know we can cope with that overwhelm. We can restore our sanity And I think part of it is knowing that we are in it together. And so, friends, I just want you to know that I'm here for you. You can reach out on social media. And the great thing is that even though all of the people that we're reaching out to in our world, in whether it's virtual or whether it's in person, we're all experiencing some sort of overwhelm. And yet together, we can have positive influence for each other. And so I think that's the beautiful thing of what the Bible refers to as bearing one another's burdens, that we can carry it together and that we can be in the boat together and feel those splashes coming at us and know that it is going to be okay. So I hope you tune in next week when I talk with Jane Rubietta about her new book, Brilliance, Finding Light in Dark Places, because it ties in really well to what I just talked about today. So I'll see you next week. You've been listening to Life Repurposed with Michelle Rayburn. Check out tips, resources, and inspiration at michellerayburn.com. I'd love it if you would subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, or Spotify. I'd also love it if you would like, review, and share the information about this podcast with your friends. Thank you so much for listening.